To the readers who look up
For
at the
all the
stars
underdogs
and
who don't
To
let
all
fear
those
stop them
who
from
lead
fighting.
monotonous
Dedicated to
lives
those
in the
without a
hope that they may
diagnosis.
experience at secondhand
For Mom,
the
because
delights
you said I could write a
and
book
dangers
instead of getting
of
a summer
adventure.
job. I love you.
For every girl who has ever felt
For every
powerless.
Nesta out there, to
I'm the
12-year-old,
mountain, and for Josh,
17-year-old,
Darren, and Annie,
21-year-old,
who are the reason I keep
and
climbing
30-year-old
my own.
me, you were never the disaster you
For
thought you
those
were.
I
For
love,
anyone
all
who
never
has
got
ever
the chance
fallen
to
from
see
the
this
sky
happen.
of their life, these words are for you.
Okay, I think
It's on.
are we live? Oh my god!
Here we are.
First episode. This is crazy.
This is nuts.
Okay. So welcome. Happy New Year. Honestly,
Cheers to the New Year's.
Okay. So episode 1, the power of female friendships. I love this topic. I love this book. You know I love this book, but
As do I.
Yeah, A Court of Silver Flames by Sarah J. Maas. And we, for the first part of the episode, we're not going to talk about the book itself. So we're just talking about our own experiences, relating them. Yeah, and that's the first part of the episode.
I know. I'm so excited for us to finally film, to finally get to release this. I am nervous. I have this weird, I don't know if, I know that you noted imposter syndrome, and I don't know if that's the right phrase, but I think that in my life, I've always been so interested and concerned with how other people perceive me and what they think of me. And so since I'm going to be 30 in March, my goal is to not care what people think anymore. And that's going to be my mindset for our podcast is we like it. And that's all that matters.
Yeah, it's hard. And, Matt was saying, because I was reflecting all those same fears, and he was like, who are you creating it for? Like the whole internet or yourself? Or I was like, I don't know.
Right. And Derek said the same. And then I said, but Derek, we're going to be famous over.
Derek,
we're going to get 1 million views in the first 10 minutes.
Taylor Swift, ever heard of her? We're going to be right behind her.
I'm going to be a household name.
Yeah, no, it's scary. And especially because this isn't our area of expertise.
No.
We were, for context, everyone, we were at Target 20 minutes ago buying USB adapters. We're asking the guy in the aisle, do you think this is gonna work for, say we're doing a podcast. Okay. Hypothetically. Us girls. Do we look like podcasters, by the way?
We don't. And he answered the first question and then completely disregarded the second and walked away.
Did.
So
he ignored us.
Right?
I was like, can you compare these? And you were like, what do you think of these two together?
Like this.
He acknowledged. He knew we were talking to him. Yeah. Oh, well.
Can't win them all. But you know what? If we go back next week after our newfound fame, he's going to wish that he had helped us.
He's going to want a business card for sure.
Yes.
All right. So we do have kind of a formal segment called Something I Read This Week. And, I keep saying we really don't have episodes each week, but every time we have an episode, we'll do a Something I Read This Week. And just one of us will have found something that week that resonates with us or that we thought was interesting, or, it could be some just short little blurb. And we'll both just kind of give our thoughts on it and put it out into the world, like fortune cookie, horoscope, billboard, anything. So Alexandra, I think you have.
I would. So I had taken a picture of this and I just stumbled upon it in my camera roll within the last day or two. So this was a children's book that Kellen and Emery checked out from the Cecil County Library in Northeast. And I don't know if I was just in a mood, but I read this book, and the last page of this children's book, I was no good. Tears. And it's basically, I have Googled all night. I cannot find the author. I can't find the name of this book. I can't go back and look at my previous checkouts. But the premise is that there's this little library in town, and there's a librarian, and there are, I believe, 3 children that are dropped off at the library is like a safe haven. So the librarian raises them, and they are all different backgrounds. She calls them the books. That's what their little nickname is. And in the very end of the book, she basically explains to them why they all look different, why they're all at the library. And they all like had these little notes pinned to them, like, please keep this baby safe. Please raise these babies well. Please give my child shelter. And so she goes on basically explaining this to them. And she says, the librarian gathered them in the circle of her arms. Some questions don't have answers, she said. Some mysteries are never solved. She read them the notes that came pinned to their blankets. Your parents sent you here with love. They wanted you to be safe. The library is our home. Families don't always look alike, and where we're going is more important than where we came from. Well, where are we going? The books asked. To bed, she said. But the ending with her talking about how families don't always look alike, where you're going is so much more important than when you came from.
It got you.
Gets me choked up now, even thinking about it, just because, I have a blended family and I come from a blended family, and like things that have happened in my life, just knowing that, that can shape me and the choices that I make moving forward. I thought that was really profound for a children's book that I was reading at 8:30 before bedtime. So that really spoke to me, and I cried, and my kids knew I was going to cry.
Aww,
they knew it was coming.
Yeah. That's a good one.
Mm-hmm.
That's a good one.
So I will, if I ever find the name of the book or the author, I will absolutely plug them because I loved it.
Yeah, because you got from the library.
My Google search history might be a little odd. It's like children abandoned at library, children's book, the books. I couldn't find it no matter what I did.
The books. Good. I love that. I loved your blurb. Something you read this week. So our topic today, the title of the episode is Like a Sister, the Power of Female Friendships. And our topic in general is just female friendships and how they shape you, how they pull. I mean, this was an interesting topic to pull from a book. And I just also want to touch on that this isn't a book review podcast. We're pulling themes and things that resonated with us or maybe that didn't, I don't know, that we found were repetitive in the book. Also, sorry, the echo, I have to get used to the fact that I can hear myself and I can hear you a second after you're talking and also while you're talking. That's a lot for my brain to compute. It's like overstimulating. So, but yeah, friends and friendship.
So I don't love confrontation, never have. That's why being an attorney is such a silly, goofy job choice. What was that about? It's so interesting. I love my girlfriends. I have had, I think, 3 friendship breakups in my life, and I have mourned those more than any like crush who didn't like me back. Yeah. More than any family event I ever went through. Like the
even
loss
a situationship.
More than that. I like just situationship. I love my girlfriend so much, and when those friendships didn't continue, those 3 in particular, I was just crushed, like just devastated. And I've really never felt that way about any other kind of group of people other than my girlfriends. And I think there's, I only have little brothers that I grew up with, and then I had a stepsister later in life. So I kind of felt like my idea of sisterhood came through the girlfriends that I had. Mm-hmm. And they really, I incorporated that into my family. So when those didn't continue, I was like, how do I even get past this? Like, what do you do?
You're my friend. Yeah. Like, we're friends.
Exactly. So for me, I just am so grateful for the girlfriends that I have. I love my girlfriends. I will be a champion for my girlfriends always, all the time. Number 1 cheerleader. That's just what I think of my female friends, and what I hope that in our dedications, what I hope my girls have in the future, because I don't think that the importance of having girlfriends was something that anybody really talked to me about growing up.
Yeah.
And I wish that somebody would have. I'm the oldest, so I didn't have an older sister you know, and I think my friend Morgan, who I met would have been my junior year of high school, was kind of the first person to really talk to me about that. And she was a grade ahead of me. So she was older. So she was kind of, and is still kind of like my older sister to me.
Yeah.
And girls rule, boys drool.
Amen.
Sorry.
I agree. And I think, you know, the importance of, especially what you were saying, the importance of the female friendship and a female dynamic and girl to girl really resonated with me closer to adulthood. In middle school, you know, I think, so as someone that grew up with a very negative internal voice, I just from a very young age have always been like very nasty to myself in my head, like very shamey, very things that I would never even think about other people. But like for some reason, I feel very negatively towards myself. You know, the establishing me, I didn't realize that how healing a female friendship could be and fostering those female friendships. Because, you know, in middle school, I was friends with really cool girls and I was so focused on these women that I had, these girls in middle school that I had like deemed the popular girls and wanted their acceptance and their validation, that I did not focus on the friendships in front of me that I could have, like those women are so cool today, you know, with social media, I know what they're doing and they're cool. And I'm like, man, I wish I had just focused there instead of trying to seek validation and happiness elsewhere. And, you know, I did it with romantic relationships for a while, seeking that validation to just calm that internal self voice, trying to find, you know, in romantic relationships. Because maybe if I saw myself through your eyes, I would maybe like what I saw. I would maybe like myself. And so, you know, that failed with romantic relationships, obviously, because I mean, that's just way too much responsibility, emotional responsibility to put on one person. And I think through high school and college, having those female friendships really take form. You know, I was on dance team, I did cross country. And then in college, I joined a sorority, and just having that female friendship really modeled well. And those friendships, I just really fostered them and cherished them. I started to find that internal validation through those women and through my friends, and started to see myself kind of through their eyes more. So they really like breathed a lot of life back into me. And I wish I knew that from a young age, like what you were saying. For sure, because I think I would have saved myself a lot of heartache.
Yeah, I agree with that. And it's so interesting because I also have a very negative voice in my head. Mm-hmm. And growing up, that voice in my head was not nice. It's still sometimes not so pleasant. I've been working on that a lot. And it's so interesting because the things that I like critique myself on, I would never even think about coming to my friends, because I'm like, my friends are perfect, beautiful angels. They can do no wrong. Like that sort of thing. And I feel like I can be so nice to others, but not so much myself. And, you know, it was interesting because my dad's job, we moved a lot. So I went to a different elementary school every single year.
That's hard.
And then I did 3 years at the same middle school. And then into high school, my parents separated and divorced. And then I moved around a bit with my mom. So I ended up going to 5 high schools total, which is hard. So I will say a lot of my girlfriends from high school, our friendships are successful because I had to move before we had any drama. You know what I mean? Like we really didn't have like an opportunity to have, because I wasn't there. Like I would make a whole group of friends that I loved and was so happy to have, and then I'd get moved to a new environment. So, you know, it's tricky because I have a lot of women that I think that I could have had really great relationships with into adulthood, but I felt like I was kind of deprived of that opportunity because of how often I had to move. So the friends that I have now that I've had for years and years, you know, those are friends that I throw as much effort as I can, all my effort into those relationships, because I'm like, we've been together this long, like we're we're
You're
riding this out at this
digging
point.
my claws in.
You know, which is interesting because I have like a group of women that are like in my core, like phone call in the middle of the night kind of friends, like that I am so grateful for. And I never would have thought about, you know, being almost 30 years old and like what those friendships would mean to me and what I would need out of those friendships when you're like 16 meeting people or you're 21 meeting people. You know, you don't really think of those sorts of things. And I'm glad that the female friends that I have, that we've been able to work through and pass the distance. And, you know, things happen, like people are married, people have kids, people have more than one jobs. You know, I've got friends in Kentucky and all over the place, you know, and we still somehow make that work. And I'm grateful for that. You know, but there's a lot of times where I think people say this is too hard. I can't put effort into, you know, with that sort of thing. And it's hard, especially with having 2 little kids and working all the time. You know, I sometimes beat myself up because I'm like, wow, I wish I could show up more for my friends. I wish I could be more present. So I feel like now I try to take the time that I can to really make my effort known and to be present, because I do not, oh my gosh, if I lost any of my friends right now, bad news. I wouldn't make it. It wouldn't be good.
I know. It's just something about being able to connect with a friend. And also even like dynamic of having someone that believes in you and holds you accountable and is like, you know, you're better than this mistake, this choice that you're about to make, or this choice that you did make. You know, you're better than this. I love you and support you, but, you know, I see more from you. And holding that accountability, holding you accountable while still being the kindest voice in your head is just such a balance. Like I don't want to call anyone out because I don't want to leave anyone out, but I have so many women that just do that so well and that have held me accountable through our friendship and, you know, told me when I've hurt their feelings, when I've made a mistake, when they need help, when they need me to hurt someone's feelings. No, I'm just kidding. When they, you know, what they need from me and what they expect from me. Because, you know, I've made a lot of mistakes. I've made a lot of choices that I wish I had made differently. And I think as I grow into the woman I am today and the friend that I am today, I just didn't have the emotional capacity. And like, you know, I had to make those choices and those mistakes in order to be the solid friend that I am today. It's so important to have that level of accountability, but it's so impressive when that woman is still always like, they just say it with so much love and they do it right. They just get that on the head.
That's my Morgan. My Morgan was, like I said earlier, she's the first friend that did that for me. And in kind of like the big sister way, I think I needed to hear that. And I actually don't think I've ever told Morgan this. So,
Morgan, surprise.
I know she'll listen. And I love Morgan so much. It could make more tears potentially well up in my eyes, but I'm not going to cry the first episode. So, but she really, I think, did that with grace. And also when we were in high school, she was a senior in high school. She was like 17, 18, and with such grace was able to be like, let's rethink these things. And she deserves all the most wonderful things in this life, and I love her so much. And that's my love letter to Morgan. You know, but yeah, having friends that hold you accountable without it, without changing their opinion or without reacting, I think is super important.
Sometimes I'll be sitting right next to my boyfriend and my son, and I'm like texting you because I have a thought, and I'm like, you know what, this isn't a boy thought. This is for the girls.
This is for the girls, not the guys. That's why that one girl on TikTok, she makes me laugh so hard. She does the list. I can't remember her name. She's so pretty. She has blonde hair. She goes, this is for the girls, not the guys.
Not the guys. Yeah, that's my life. Not the guys. Matt like knows to build in an extra 30 minutes because I have to run my outfit by like 4 different group chats. I have to text you. I'm like, what do you guys think? This is the vibe. This is the restaurant screenshots.
Yeah, absolutely. And if I send you an outfit and I can't get a text back by the time we have to leave, I'm stressed. And there have been 2 occasions where I had to make the choice. And I remember being in my car and you texted back, you were like, those shoes. And they were not the shoes I had on. And it was actually, this just got roasted in the group chat. So I have to go home. Sorry, I'm late. Nobody liked my outfit.
Nobody mattered. My stepmom used to kind of poke fun at me growing up. She's like, oh, Cecylia will only do the activity if her friends are doing it. I'm like, yeah, I'm not offended by that. Thinking that in adulthood, I'm like, yeah, I want my friends there.
Why not?
Of course, if my friends are doing it, I'm in. That's why I played volleyball. I benched the whole season, and my coach was like, Cecylia, if you just stop talking to everyone during practice and like during games, I'll play you. And I was like, that's really not the incentive you think.
That's not what I'm here for, coach.
Like, I actually get to talk to everyone on the bench. Everyone rotates.
Yeah.
Like I'd like to stay here. I don't even know what position I played. I was getting my hair done the other week, and Stacy, my hairdresser, she was like, I played volleyball. What position did you play? I was like, I really don't know. I went in as the passer. Like they wear a different jersey, and
your guess is as good as mine. I've never played that sport a day.
I was like and Stacy told me it the other week too.
The libero. Libero. They are allowed to sub at will behind the 10-foot line.
Wow.
You could be speaking a different language. I don't know what that means.
I was really an asset to that team. You were.
I didn't play many team sports. I played soccer when I was very young, growing up, with another good friend that my only since childhood friend, Leah. And I remember her dad may have coached us one year, but I remember we played soccer together. And then as I got probably 4th or 5th grade, I started to ride horses, which is mostly a solo activity. So there were a couple of other girls that were my age, but it all depends on when you see them, when you're there for lessons, when they're there for lessons. And those were friendships that I had solely at the farm. Yeah. Normally when you're a horse girl, you try to keep those things separate.
What, riding and your friends?
Right. No, just your horse life and then your social life, since it's so frowned upon to be a horse girl. So I'm just saying, yeah, still a horse girl. It's fine. Like I said, I'm going into this new decade of my life not caring what people think.
Loud and proud.
Yeah, loud and proud horse girl. My husband and I have property, and I want to put a horse on it. I want a horse to eat the grass in my backyard.
Do it.
That's my dream.
Yeah. They're very large. I'm scared of horses, but I love that journey for you.
Thank you.
I will visit your horse from behind the fence. To interact with the horse exactly as you tell me, and I'll be sweating. I think friendships have to go through conflict in order to grow, and it results in a friend breakup, or it deepens the friendship. And obviously, I've had both. And I won't speak on specific friendship conflicts just because those women aren't here, and as far as ones that resulted in the friendships ending, there's always, I obviously know my perspective and what happened from my side, but if they're not here to echo theirs, I don't want to speak on it. But as far as conflict deepening a friendship, I've definitely had a lot of that. We even have had a few moments that have just deepened our friendship by being vulnerable. I don't even know that it's necessarily conflict, but just opening up a layer that you're okay, this could expose a reason for you to not want to be my friend anymore, or to fight, or to walk away, or this can be a good space for us to grow.
It's kind of that first step into knowing the good, the bad, and the ugly.
Yeah.
Where you're I'm putting a toe in and I don't know.
Yeah.
I'm going to jump in and I don't know if you're going to jump in too, or kind of what you think. I think that's the scariest part. Is crossing that threshold with a friendship. And, it was kind of interesting because with moving so much, there are several friends that I had conflict with. And again, just like you said, you can't speak for those people. They're not here, and just kind of how I perceived it and how I experienced it. I wasn't able to move past those conflicts, but I have a couple of friends where there were not real conflicts, but Morgan, for example, saw me at my most annoying high school age,
right.
And she kind of was a resting guide to be that's a wrong choice. Let's think twice, and I had never had a friend do that.
Yeah.
And it took me a moment to understand that was not a personal dig, a personal attack. Mm-hmm. It was coming from a place of I love and care about you so much, and I just wouldn't do that the way that you did it. Yeah. So you should think about this way to do it. So, it's interesting with A Court of Silver Flames, because we talked about it earlier. Like if we read the cover for the book or the back of the book, it doesn't even talk about some of these things.
It's very strong theme.
Where does it tell me about the ultimate girl power that literally exists in this whole book? Where are the girls? Because we have the Nesta and Cassian storyline, which is fantastic in my opinion. There's a whole separate storyline in this book that was so perfect for this episode, that was based on the Valkyries and their friendship, their girl power friendship.
And I do quickly want to say we are officially moving into the book part, it sounds like.
Yes.
So okay. So we cannot not talk about A Court of Silver Flames anymore. But we are officially moving into the book piece, A Court of Silver Flames by Sarah J. Maas in the ACOTAR series. You can absolutely still stay and listen along, because we're going to give context and, still relate in with our own stories. But
so you have been warned. Yeah, just about girl stuff, girl power. I just totally didn't expect it, and I didn't know really where Nesta's character was going to go. And I thought it was a very nice touch. Because we get a little bit, in the other books in this series, you get pieces of female friendship. Like I can think of a few moments from the third book that really spoke to me. But
more is not a girl's girl, though. You're totally right.
We get topic for a different day.
Certain type of female friendship, absolutely, and this is the one that resonates.
Right. This for me was the best example that has been written out of the ACOTAR series. Like I said, Sarah J. Maas has multiple books. I think in this series so far, this is the best book that focuses on girl power and female friendships. That's just my opinion. It's just my opinion. Oh, this book is nuts. Derek, I don't even know how to. Derek saw me reading this. He was reading over my shoulder, and he was like, "What is that?" In this godly house that you are reading, and I said, "I don't know." Not sure. So you have this storyline with the spice between Nesta and Cassian,
which is all I'm reading for, because I was hit with the girl power, and I was like, "Oh my god, this is even better." But in that group chat that we're in, that's talking about fantasy books and reads, you guys are sending the maps, and you're so into the world building and the story, and I'm so impressed by that, because I was like, "Oh, I'm just waiting. When are they doing it? When?"
I'm like, how do they get from this side of the map to the other?
Yeah,
and when they're talking about the realms, where are they at? And especially in this one, when I started the Throne of Glass series, I texted your cousin and I'm like, I can't, a map. I don't understand where anybody's at, because all I know is the ACOTAR map and where the courts are. And I'm just this is different.
I'm like, they better do it soon. I Google before I start these spice chapters, because I'm like, how long do I have to wait before I see
this
some
is true.
action?
This is true, because when I was reading A Court of Mist and Fury, Cecylia had already read it, and she's like, "Let me know when you get to chapter 54 and 55, because those are the ones." I'm like, "The ones of what? I don't know what happens in that chapter." So of course I'm up until 3:00 in the morning, and then I hit chapter 54, which is beautiful and lovely and a work of art.
So romantic.
And then I hit chapter 55, and I'm like, I know what Cecylia was talking about. I know why she wanted me to read this.
Wow. Whoops. But yes, I love the spice. But the female friendship just hit me in the face. So many of these tabs in my book are just one line alone, she would not fail her friends, or she would I love Nesta's character development from going from this shitty family member, essentially. And I hate to say this on a public, actually I don't hate to say, I'm very proud to say that I resonated with Nesta so much, and that is what it's like to be inside my iron steel wall brain. I just care so much, and I love so much, and my family can be a huge trigger for me, and I think that's what we see in Nesta. Even towards the end of the book, she still struggles to be nice to Feyre after she's already shown her friends so much warmth, like brought Emery spices and had this like girly, wonderful sleepover. She's still struggling with
the
being
sleepover scene.
kind to her own sister. And this like line, just the beginning, Nesta has always been prickly, proud, swift to anger, and slow to forgive. It just hits me right in the heart. And it's, she gets a lot of criticism for how she handles trauma. And I'm just so, I'm glad for those of you that do not process trauma this way, in this self-hatred and this negativity and this shame, pity, partyness, because I would love to know what that's like. But I just loved watching her character development and her growth, and seeing that she can be this very cold, fierce woman, which I identify with heavily. And it's not the picture perfect, what we always see, or, that idea of men like smile more, like you can be a stone cold witch and still have just such warmth and a loving, caring side about you that would like die for your friends, that would like go to the ends of the earth for the women that have lifted you up. And I love that her character development wasn't that she turned warm in the end. And I know that people really don't like that, but I love that it was just, she learned to be healthy about it, and to, through the mind stilling that her friends taught her, this like breathing techniques and different ways to handle how she was feeling inside, and like this war that she was at with herself. And it didn't make her like this warm woman in the end, that she just was proud of her coldness and knew how to direct it and maintain it.
I love all those thoughts too, because in my life, I think that I have struggled with being too nice. I have always, I wish I had maybe been told more that it's okay to speak your truth. It's okay to speak your mind. And that can be good for your peace, even if it may not be as peaceful for someone else. Not in a negative way, not in a mean way. But I really like that Nesta is not afraid to say how she feels. Now, granted, she wasn't always nice about it, but I think that she had to work through that. And I love the way that she did work through that, because in my little journal, I said, I wrote down that I really liked the passage where she goes, I acknowledge these thoughts and I'm letting them go. I am focusing on my breathing. These thoughts exist and I am letting them pass by me. So when things bother her and affect her, she like really, I was like, this is really nice to work through. I'm going to just note that for myself.
Right.
When I'm having a hard time, like that's, I think, great advice. And I think that wasn't something she would do before, because the first thing she would do is snap.
Yeah.
React.
Right. With your word.
Because being cold or being mean to the people around her was like a default setting, like a reaction.
Such a defense mechanism.
Right.
To like
and
her
I
self-hatred.
Exactly. And I like the way that, like you said, that she doesn't necessarily change the way that she confronts people or talks to people, but she changes the way that she reacts and how she treats the people around her, which I think is important. And you not only see that with the new friends that she creates with Emery and Glenn, but in how she repairs that friendship with Amryn too. I think that those were really, you see kind of the three women working through the blood right, and these kinds of physical, mental, taxing, dangerous things. And then she also kind of works on her friendship with Amryn, which was on a much, in my opinion, I think more emotional level with what they had to come back with, because out of the inner circle, she was working with Amryn all the time. And Amryn was the one that she really, I think bonded with, or who actually just accepted her for who she was.
Yeah. And she like really hurt Amryn. And that was someone that had stood by her so firmly when so many people, Amryn was like, just wait. And she would confide in Amryn, and that character of just lashing out against someone who had been so solid for her. I loved seeing their friendship repair. And I guess that's like kind of the conflict piece that is so important in a friendship, in terms of, it would only deepen that friendship moving forward that they've had that experience. hopefully, if it's repaired right. And Amryn, thankfully, is a forgiving character. And I loved seeing that play out because Amryn was really her first friend and probably what kept her away from spiraling for so long, because Amryn saw something in her that I don't think Nesta saw or liked about herself. And Amryn liked it and just wanted her to harness it. Like, she always just wanted her to harness that in the way that Nesta eventually does. But Amryn was like her solid friend, and I love seeing that play out.
I also love that Emery, Glynn, and Nesta were all able to accomplish such an awesome physical feat with their training. And then ultimately the kind of climax at the end together. I think it was a really cool way to kind of show that you can build yourself up, but the people around you can build you up as well.
Yeah.
And their teamwork, I just thought was phenomenally written. I really, really loved it. And it was just a pleasant surprise for me from what I expected out of the book.
Yeah. These friendships being forged in a moment of low vulnerability. If you're friends with someone for a long time, you go through a lot of highs and lows, but having them forged when she was in such a low place was interesting to see play out too. And she's recovering from a lot of trauma and trying to find her way in this new world, and that's where she's in her new self and learning who she is. I have obviously had friends that have gone through a lot with me in terms of where I've been at in life. Like, I'm sober for 4 years in December, this past December.
I love that. I'm so proud of you.
And I remember that initial journey. I had viewed my female friendships in such a cloud. I was worried to get sober because I was worried that I would lose all my friends. And I was worried for that. And it turned me off to getting sober for a couple of years. And I found that once I finally did the work and did get sober, I didn't lose any of my friends. They got stronger. My friendships were strengthened by that. And I guess my perspective was skewed in as far as, how I viewed myself, how I viewed my friendships, and kind of doubted them. There were so many people that I cannot believe that I thought I would lose by just stopping drinking. I loved seeing these friendships start in such a hard place, because obviously when I got sober in the first few months of my sobriety, you kind of, sometimes these life flows make friendships so much stronger.
I agree. And for example, my mom and I have had a hard time together, you know this, and my very core group of friends, know the details of why her and I don't have the best relationship.
Yeah.
And that's probably something that maybe in time I could talk about, but for the sake of I have siblings who share the same mom, I don't want to put everybody's information out there, but, I really resonated with the fact that the women in the book know the ins and outs of what the other has been through prior to meeting one another, as they continue to work together. And kind of when you're in a situation where your home life in these core pivotal moments is not a safe space to be, or not a, emotionally kind of structured, sound environment, it's very kind of nerve-wracking or hard to kind of put that trust into other people to say, well, this is what I've been through and this is what I deal with. And sometimes I need help working through that because it's hard for me. The friends that I have all know about those things and have been more than supportive. And it was always something that I was ashamed or embarrassed about, that they would see kind of the background of this facade of I've always been bubbly, I'm always kind, I'm always nice to people, you would never really know about maybe some of the things that I had going on. And I felt like it was this facade, this drastic difference, and I always was so concerned about how other people would think about that or what they would think. And I remember these women all showing up for me in a time where I really needed them to, like no questions asked, no judgment, I think is the biggest thing for me. And I really resonated with that in this book with these best girlfriends will never ever judge you. Like your best group of girls will never judge you. They will never think twice about your family. And if your family stinks, they'll tell you. Like Emery's family is the worst. And, you know, Nesta had no problem sticking up for her. And I have had friends in my life who have done that for me with people in my family. So, you know, I really, that just spoke to me in the book. And I really, you know, I enjoyed that. And I was glad that it was featured because I think that it's something that a lot of people can relate to.
Yeah.
Yeah.
My child's father struggles with addiction, and it was very difficult around when I decided to leave him. I did not know that I was pregnant, and I remember, you know, he had suffered a relapse, and that, just for context, I will disclose this episode to him before airing, just to be respectful. So if you're hearing this, my child's father has given the go ahead. But I had made the decision for myself and my own boundaries to end the relationship. And 2 weeks later, I found out I was pregnant. And I remember the first phone call that I made, you know, when I decided to leave the relationship, was to my best friend, Nina. And she lives 2 hours away, and she initially cried and then just dropped everything she was doing and drove to my house in the middle of the night, and just sat with me. You know, she ordered a pizza to my house and we just cried. And seeing how my friends showed up over the next 2 weeks as things played out, you know, I found out I was pregnant. I, you know, was processing what being a single mom would look like. I had women that I had met in sobriety, actually. So new friends showing up to my house and doing my dishes and doing my laundry and just taking me out and about, you know, taking me to lunch, like just things that I didn't know I needed, and saying it's going to be okay. You know, I said when I initially told my friend, who is also in recovery, so I won't disclose her name, but I initially sat her down and told her I was pregnant. Her first words were, "It's going to be okay. It's going to be okay." And I love, you know, on page 521 in A Court of Silver Flames, the line that shook me up was Nesta hadn't realized how badly she needed to hear it. And it was, she kind of realized in that moment that Gwen would always be there for her. Nothing could kind of hold that friendship back. And that was one of those defining moments when, you know, my friends really started showing up for me when I went through something difficult. And I don't know. I know I would have gotten through it, but I would not have gotten through it the same way without my friends. And I think that's kind of a recurring theme here is there are so many things that Nesta encounters that I just don't know that she would have gotten through it without her friends. But yeah, that was an emotional piece for me, pulling that out.
Put tears in my eyes, but I'm cool and not crying. So
I'm the better woman for that experience, and I'm a better friend for it. And I saw how much my friends cared about me. You can talk to people and share giggles back and forth all day long, but when I pick up the phone and someone's response is, "Okay, I'm on my way," and they live 2 hours away, I was so moved by that. And of course, she ordered a cheese pizza to my house.
Yeah. Okay. See that again? Not crying. I just
the pizza alone.
Yeah. I mean, I think that you said that perfectly. I am a better woman. I am a better person. I am a better friend. I am a better mom. I'm a better spouse. Like, because of my friends, because of the women that I have in my life, because they inspire me to be better. They are there for me when I need them. And, you know, for me, like, I will admit sometimes I really do think it fills a void because, you know, how many times do you see people making fun of women for daddy issues? We don't talk about the girls that kind of grow up
Mommy
with
issues.
yeah, we don't talk about that. So when you have multiple women in your life that are like, oh no, I've got you, like come here, like
While
without
still holding you accountable.
yeah,
Like,
absolutely.
so
And also I do have to give a disclaimer and a shout out to my stepmom Kathy, because stepmom Kathy rules and she looks out for me. I just didn't get her until a little bit later in my life, but we love Kathy. I'm a better stepmom because of Kathy. Kathy set such a good example for me, and I love and appreciate her very much. So there was light at the end of that tunnel for me. Outside of my friends, which was nice. And it's interesting too, seeing her relationship with her sisters, because you kind of like see them pair off at different points in time. And I also wonder if that's just because there's three of them. Like you always kind of hear like three is too much. But for my girls, I always hope that they find like a best friend in each other. And I do hope that they hold each other accountable in a constructive way, in a way that doesn't feel like bullying, that doesn't feel like being mean, but just as, I mean, they're so little, but like as they get bigger, to be there for one another. And, I definitely think it's so interesting because we see, I mean, and please correct me if I'm wrong, but I think one of the first people we hear Nesta say she loves is her sister, right?
Yeah.
I think that is also just huge based on what she went through, that she was like, look, I have this very hard outside shell, and when I'm going to tell you something, I mean it sincerely, and she kind of gets to that place at the end, kind of after maybe like everybody ganged up on her, which I think made it really, really hard.
Like an intervention.
Yeah.
Yes, I love how she has such a different dynamic with her friends than she does with her sisters, because she's really like, I still struggle with my sisters sometimes, to our communication struggles sometimes, when we have conflict, when we're fighting. It's not as smooth as my friendships. And I think it's because my sisters and I just like battle it out. And so then I'm just gentler with my friends. I'm kinder. And her feelings towards Feyre and Elaine, I mean, when she even insults Elaine, like, says she's a dog that'll just
that one hurt me to read. That one made me
I was like, yeah, get her. Like, that's worse. Oh God, I'm like so mad about myself right now. But I was like, yeah, Elaine did do that. Like I really just feel like I was so Nesta to my core, because I was like, yeah, Nesta's protected her whole life, and now she's over with Feyre, and that makes me build another steel wall, versus
that's
like
fair.
Emery and Gwen opening up to her. She's so accepting of it, and she's so warm, and she's so hopeful that. Yeah, I don't know. It's just a different dynamic, but maybe it's that she's more easily offended by her sisters. I don't know what it is, but I agreed with her, which is I love hearing that you're like, oh, that was me. I'm like, well, she's on the money.
I mean, she wasn't necessarily wrong. It was the delivery, but I'm a sensitive soul. I'm a sensitive girl.
I think she thought it. I think she
yeah.
Which is a good transition. You can think those things, and then you shouldn't.
Well, I think that if anybody is reading this series, I think the first three books are a work of art in and of themselves, because you get to see Rhysand and Feyre and kind of go through that romance aspect.
Love story is just
right. It's so beautiful, and I think that this book is so different in what it offered. And the female friendships, they're not something that's explicitly mentioned. It's not really something that's talked about, when like the biggest thing from this book is put your hands on the headboard and hold on tight,
Right.
That's all that I saw on Book Talk and Bookstagram before I read this. And I had no idea about this theme in the book. And
women.
Right. And I really loved it. That is why it's my favorite book in the series. And I think that any person, I think that any woman in particular that has had those kind of friendships that you forged with the people in your life, will really, really relate to this. And I think they would really enjoy the book. I think that the series is something that everybody should read. I loved it. But this one in particular, if you like girl power and knowing that girls can do anything that boys can do, if not better. This is, I mean, it just was great.
I think that, the series might not be for everyone. I read Fourth Wing and I was so loud about it on social media, and my friend's husband messaged me. He's like, hey, I, as a true fantasy reader that is educated in worlds beyond worlds. That's not really word for word what he said, but really that's who he is. He's a really good fantasy reader. And he was like, I don't think I liked it as much as you. Felt like a lot of copy and paste. Do you think I would like this ACOTAR series? And I'm like, I don't
I'd be
know.
like, I don't have a bookstagram. Don't come to me for advice. I actually don't know. I can't recover
I
from
was
this.
like,
Now, I will say.
it might not be for everyone,
No.
And I like it. I don't, based on your review of Fourth Wing, I don't know if you're going.
I will say something controversial. Fourth Wing was my first romantasy book.
Same, yeah.
I prefer this type of series, this author, Sarah J. Maas. I feel like every single, the reason I think people may like it is because I think every single book has a different underlying theme with something to offer.
Yeah.
And I'm not making a comparison between authors right now. I'm just saying, in particular with Sarah J. Maas, from what I've read. Now I did this backwards. Again, email me for the dissertation. But I read Crescent City first, and then I read ACOTAR. And the way that she writes the next piece of the story is very captivating. And there's different kind of themes and overwhelming topics that are kind of happening, right? So like we get romance and Mist and Fury, and then we kind of get like a more political aspect with War and Ruin. And then in this one, we really still get the girl power coming through the female friendships. So I enjoy that in a series. And I think that, these little like subplots underneath the main topic are something that a lot of people might enjoy.
Yeah, absolutely.
But mostly the girls. Not the guys.
The first girl moment in this book, we can close because we've been chatting, but I did the first moment that I was like, is this a book for the girls? Was when she's in the library with Clotho, and I don't know what page it's on, but it's such a raw woman to woman moment for me that it's like her first interaction, when she's at her most raw, she just got her family just assigned her to this intervention, this self-healing journey, because they're really worried about her because she's just drinking. She's out with men at all hours, and that's how she's handling her trauma, by being mean, drinking, and out with men at all hours. And she describes the feeling as bubbling up to Clotho, and said, I can't find it right now, but she's basically like, oh my God, maybe I can quote it. She's like, I am worthless and I am nothing, and I'm so tired of being in my own head. And she describes that teared me up when I first read it, because obviously I'm a Nesta girl, brain to body. And I just felt like that was such a raw woman to woman moment, because she's like, Nesta doesn't know why these words are coming up, why they're surfacing, why they're bubbling up. And I think that description is just so authentic of when you're opening up to another woman, and you're wanting that connection, and you're searching for that validation. And I just loved that her most raw thoughts about herself bubbled up to the surface when she like interacted with a woman that was for the girls, because Clotho is the priestess in the library of priestesses who have been through really traumatic experiences in their safe haven. And so she knew this was a safe woman to open up to, and her body, like her reaction was that she wanted to. She immediately wanted to offer that super raw information up. And I loved that moment, like that little pocket of, I was like, this was a girl book.
For the girls. I have to give credit to Becca Moore. That's the TikToker that does that. I just want to be sure. Okay. But yes, that was the first instance in the book as well, when she kind of opens up. She's just so unlike her.
Yeah, she just thinks it. She doesn't even want to bring it forward yet. But
And I think that the reason this is my favorite book, and the reason Nesta is my favorite character, is because I really think that it shows that you are worthy of good things in your life. You are worthy of having happiness in the form of being by yourself, in the form of having strong friendships, and in the form of having a strong partner. You don't have to have a strong partner. I think you do have to have friends, and I think that her character development, showing just how much you can overcome and change some things while not changing everything about yourself is really amazing. And she's kind of, in my opinion, one of the only characters we really kind of get that full arc with, you know, out of this series. Except with Resend, which we can talk about a different day, but I have opinions on him from this book.
Oh.
Also maybe controversial.
Don't you dare. I'm just kidding.
No, I just think it's interesting, and I believe Michelle said this, is that this book you get to see him from other people other than Feyre. And I think Michelle said in our text with her, she said, instead of through rose-colored glasses, which I thought was really interesting.
The first 3 books are told first person from Feyre, who is the youngest sister in this family. And she falls in love with Resand. He's her mate. So we're just seeing Resand through. But Sarah J. Maas still offers pockets of like, this is the Dark Lord, this is the evil jerk of the area and of the world. And I'm like, say less. But I don't think it was a secret that he was this way. It's just jarring for some readers to see
all
it
of us
through Nesta.
Saw it that obviously, okay? You're like, it was just clear. This is like me when I finish a book and I go on Goodreads and I'm like 5 stars. And then I look at the critiques and I'm like,
that's why I'm like, maybe not everyone should read the ACOTAR series, because we're like, this is the best book I've ever read in my life. I'm going to take it everywhere. Bury me with this book.
Yeah.
And other people are like, trash.
Yeah.
Like, they're like, this, what was this?
True.
Who is this author? And I'm like, our Lord and Savior.
Yeah. So, Taylor from Lindsay Gossip, she and I are both friends with Kaylee. Kaylee introduced us, but Kaylee just recently finished the series and she loved it. So I get so excited when I have a friend read the series. My friend Christine is reading it right now. I'm very excited to hear her thoughts.
My super hip youngest Gen Z sister read it and she was like, what is this trash? And I was like, well, it's really cool and romantic. And she hasn't gotten to this book yet, though. I haven't. Okay. And I told her this book is like looking inside of my brain, which I know I'm turning myself off to like half of the ACOTAR fan base. But Michelle said it best. She was like, you have to read the book meeting Nesta where she's at, not waiting for her to get better. And like understanding her where she's at. And then you have a better chance of enjoying the book if you're a Nesta hater. Trying to just understand where she's at and understand that not everyone is like you and not everyone processes trauma the same way that you process trauma. Not everyone is just bleeding niceties. Like some people are very hardened by the experiences that they've been through, and some people are it makes them cold and nasty and mean, and appreciating the character development that her friends pulled her out of is just chef's kiss. But again, you could go on Goodreads and everyone's like, Cecylia and Alexandra, whack.
Don't look at my Goodreads. I'm nice to everybody. Everybody's got 5 stars.
I go back. I get peer pressured. I look at others and I'm like, yeah, you know what? It is a 3-star. Yeah.
Not
but initially I'm like,
yeah, absolutely. Oh my gosh. Well, I think that this was so much fun. I'm so happy to have done our first episode. I think that we picked a great book to start with, and I just love you so much, and I'm so excited to do this with you. And I can't wait to just continue and see where we go from here.
Signing off, I'll leave you with, what was your favorite quote from the book?
Oh, my favorite quote from the book?
I didn't even read it. That is...
I loved this part. I don't remember what chapter this is from, but I wrote this in my journal. Every hated enemy, every moment she'd been powerless against them, simmered to the surface. And with each movement of the sword, each breath, a thought formed. It echoed with every inhale, every thrust and block. Never again. Never again would she be weak. Never again would she be at someone's mercy. Never again would she fail. Never again, never again, never again. That's my favorite quote from the book.
Mine was when they're captured and wake up in the blue of it, and I'm looking for the moment. It's just one line. Well, I do love that moment with Clotho that I referred to earlier, but and I also love when we find out that her sword's name means inner peace. But I remember if it was when she was protecting her friends or when she was initially looking for them in this part of the book. But just the solid line of she would not fail her friends. And it just, like, I still feel it in my heart when I think about that line. Just she would not fail her friends, because we haven't seen that determination and will to live from this character. We just see this nasty, rude exterior, and knowing that her heart, she has this change and this will to live and this determination that solely comes from she would not fail her friends, was just emotional for me. I loved it.
I love that.
All right.
We have new episodes that come out every other week. We do bi-weekly. They will be uploaded on Wednesdays. You can find all of our episodes online. They're on our website, www.herbestinterest.com. You will also find them on YouTube, correct? Mm-hmm. As well as anywhere that you can get your podcasts. So we're working on Spotify and Apple Podcasts too.
Thank you.
Thanks. We love you guys.
Bye.